Good evening and welcome to this Hutt Valley Chamber of Commerce Business live stream. This evening we're going to look at how to buy property in today's market, and we have together this evening a forum of local industry experts who are going to share their insights and information and expertise with you, taking into account the post-COVID recovery position we're now in. So this forum of experts has been convened this morning by Karen Smart from New Zealand Home Loans, and New Zealand Home Loans are a silver partner with the Hutt Valley Chamber of Commerce. And so I'd like to start by welcoming you, Karen, and introducing you to our group this evening. Thank you very much for bringing us this evening's live stream.
Thank you, Helen. Good evening, everybody. I'm Karen from NZHL. I'm based in Lower Hutt, and I share an office space with the Chamber of Commerce in Daly Street in Lower Hutt. I'm a registered financial advisor, and a copy of my disclosure statement is available on request. The advice I'm going to give you tonight is of a very general nature. If you have specific questions, please contact me later. NZHL is not a bank or a broker. We're a non-bank lender. We're 100% New Zealand owned. We're passionately Kiwi. We've got a loan book of 5.5 billion, which is held by Kiwi banks. We're owned by Kiwi Bank. So we're as safe as houses. So we're very, very safe as houses, government owned. So what we do at NZHL, which is different to other banks, is that we will show you how to pay your home loan off faster. So you won't have the traditional 30-year loan that your parents have. You should be able to pay your loan off in 20 years with tools and structure that New Zealand Home Loans can give you. So the best thing to do going forward, before you put an offer in on a property, is know that you're approved for the funds that you're able to afford based on the income that you have. So what does a lender look at? The lender looks at C's, the 4 C's, or the canons of lending. The first C is character. The character is about you. Do you pay your bills on time? What does your bank account look like? Is it full of dishonest? What does your credit check look like? How many inquiries have you had? How many credit cards do you have? Do you have hire purchases? Do you have car loans? Do you have a Q card or a GEM card? All those things will count against you as short-term debt when you want to buy a house. So make sure that your finances and your bank accounts look clean and tidy before you approach a lender. And sometimes this can take 3 to 6 months. Capacity. Your capacity is your ability to repay your loan. Can you repay the loan to the bank that you borrowed it from? Capacity is made up of 2 things. The first thing it's made up of is the deposit. How much deposit do you have? Can you use KiwiSaver if you're a first home buyer? How much income do you have? Income is a very, very important thing. You need to have a permanent job. If you have a 90-day trial period on your job, we will ask your employer if you're going to be confirmed after 90 days. Because on day 91, if you will let go, how do we know that you can repay your loan? Are you a contractor? Then we get 2 years of financials. Are you self-employed? And then we also get 2 years of financials. In this post-COVID environment, your income is very, very important. And we ask more questions about your income going forward, your job stability, and any likelihood of redundancy. And if you are not sure, we can also check with your employer. So yeah, to buy a house or to buy another house, there's an income to repay that loan. So that's your capacity. Your capital. Capital is your assets versus your liabilities. Your assets are things that you own. It can be your house, it can be your car, it can be your contents, it can be money in your savings account, it can be investments, KiwiSaver, it can be antiques. Your liabilities are things the money that you owe people. Your liabilities are your credit cards, your home loans, any other short-term debt such as student loan. So look at asset versus liabilities and find out what your net worth is. The next thing we look at is collateral. The collateral is the house that you're buying or the security. The house that you're buying becomes security for the bank. So the bank lends you the money, and in exchange, we hold the house as security. The house that you want to buy, is it in good condition? Is it the best house in the best street? Is it the best house in the worst street? Is it with houses that are of similar year, make and model, like a car? How old is it? What is it made of? How is it being well maintained? Is there maintenance? Is it fully consented? Or is it a one-of-a-kind house that you may have trouble selling in 10 years' time? So you may have approved finance, but we've also got to approve the security, which is the house that you want to buy. Now, the current LVR's loan-to-value ratio is 90%. So you can borrow 90% on a house that you want to live in. So 90% on an owner-occupied property. And if you're buying a property that you want to rent out as an investment property, the LVR, loan-to-value ratio, is 80%. You can borrow 80% on a property that you want to rent out. Have a 20% deposit. Now, first-home buyers are a little bit different. First-home buyers that meet the Triangle Aura scheme can borrow up to 95%, have a 5% deposit. Okay, the other thing that's quite hot at the moment is interest rates. So right now, today, the floating rate is 4.65 with Kiwibank. Now, on Monday, the floating rate with Kiwibank was 3.65. These are historic lows. Floating rates have never been this low. A floating rate floats, so it floats up and floats down. So if the rate changes, the floating rate will change. So 4.65 today, 3.65 on Monday. Have a floating rate with a 3 in front of it is something that we've never seen before in New Zealand. The fixed rates are also extremely low. The fixed rate for 12 months is 2.65%, and the 24-month fixed rate is 2.79. So if you fix the loan for 12 months, that means the rate is fixed for 12 months. That term of the loan is 12 months at 2.65. And fixed for 2 years means it's fixed for 2 years. And after that, you can renew it at another rate, or you may want to go floating. So I don't know if the rates are going to go down any further. I think possibly they might do. There's no indication that they're going to go up, so I think possibly they might go down. But I do know that the best time to buy a house is when you are ready and when you're organised. So the things I've gone over tonight help you to get ready and get organised. So if you have a stable income, and if you have a deposit and a desire to change houses or buy a new house or buy your first house in a market right now with very, very low interest rates, I'd be more than happy to help you. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Hayley from Taimana Wealth. I hope you all enjoyed Karen's presentation and look forward to hearing from myself and the others tonight. I am a financial advisor. I specialise in KiwiSaver, investments, wealth management and retirement planning. Tonight I will mainly cover KiwiSaver and other forms of saving towards buying a home. However, if you have any questions about any of the services I provide, feel free to reach out. My business provides free initial consultations. We also provide free class advice for KiwiSaver. So that's advice where we say, you are this type of investor and this KiwiSaver will suit you for that. Personalised advice is where we'll go into actually how that KiwiSaver will work for you, what your goals are, how it will get there and how much it will take and everything else in between to know about your KiwiSaver, including what to know about your old KiwiSaver compared to what we'll recommend. My disclosure statements are available on request and this presentation cannot be considered personalised advice. So a lot of first home buyers are making the most of KiwiSaver balances to buy the first home, and it's a great way to get a sizable deposit together. But there are some things to note when using KiwiSaver to buy a home. You need to meet the criteria for a withdrawal, and you also need to take note on the processing times for getting your funds. To access your KiwiSaver, you must have been a member for at least 3 years. You also must leave $1,000 in your KiwiSaver after your first home withdrawal. Any funds transferred from your Australian superannuation, if you've got one, cannot be withdrawn. KiwiSaver withdrawals can take some time to process and it depends on your provider. So check in with your provider before you start actively looking for a home so you know the facts, because you're going to have to factor that into your settlement date. To be on the safe side, if you can't get that information, we recommend a 20 business day settlement to ensure that withdrawal can be taken place. A KiwiSaver withdrawal cannot be processed till there's an accepted offer as well. So this is really something to note when you're buying at tender or auction. because there's a 10% on the day deposit, and if you can't access that funds until there's an accepted offer, you can't actually pay that on the day deposit with your KiwiSaver funds. So talk to your mortgage broker about ways to get around that. You might have cash that will cover that. That's awesome. But if you don't, your mortgage broker will have some tips and tricks. Second chance withdrawals for KiwiSaver are actually available. You cannot have used KiwiSaver previously to buy a home to access it. So that's the biggest thing that will stop you. There's a lot of criteria with doing this withdrawal, and it's easier just to reach out to Kainga Ora, which is now Housing New Zealand, and they will determine your eligibility. The First Home Grant is also an awesome initiative from the government. It's a top up to your deposit. You can access this if you meet very certain requirements. First off is your income. If you're an individual and earn up to $85,000 a year, you can access it. If you're 2 or more buyers, it's capped at $130,000 a year. You must have also contributed the minimum to KiwiSaver, which is 3% of your income, for a minimum of 3 years, and they will pay you $1,000 for each year you've contributed the minimum up to 3 years, so you can get $3,000 to $5,000 for an existing home. For a new build, it is $2,000 per year, so you can get $6,000 to $10,000 per year for a $6,000 to $10,000 total, 3 to 5 for a new build, and double that if you are 2 or more buyers. There's also property criteria. There's a cap on purchase price. There's also other conditions. It's best to check out Kainga Ora's website. You can also on there do an online form to get pre-approval for your Home Start grant. So when you come in to see your mortgage broker, you should always have that ready and available and go, hey, look, I've got this available to me as well as my KiwiSaver balance, which makes their job a lot easier. The Kainga Ora website is very easy to read and understand, and it's got a lot of list on eligibility. And I suggest jumping on there and having a look around so that you know all the facts before you start your home buying process. Some things to note with getting ready for buying with KiwiSaver. If you're actively looking for a home now, you should not be in a growth fund or growth investment mix. This is because growth investments, they are very volatile. They're designed for longer term investors with long-term time horizons of 10 to 15 years. So they go up and down a lot. And when you're buying, you do not want that. You want to have certainty on how much money you have in your deposit. So we recommend a more conservative mix, as this will retain your capital value. You won't get that fluctuation. And then when you come settlement day, you're like, oh, sorry, my KiwiSaver dropped 10% overnight. I don't actually have all the funds for my deposit anymore. That's the last thing you want. So we provide advice, and we will make sure that our clients are set up, ready and positioned how they should be coming into buying a home, and we'll work longer term out, and we will move you as appropriately. I'm just losing words for that. Now, we've covered the basics on KiwiSaver and first home grant when buying. We should also cover how to be best positioned to buy. KiwiSaver is a great savings scheme. It's awesome for building that home deposit. But there's an old saying, cash is king, money talks. If you've got cash, it makes the home buying process a lot easier than having it all locked up in KiwiSaver, because there's all these hidden costs you don't think of until you go to buy. So if you've got cash savings on the side, that is awesome. Don't put all your money into KiwiSaver. Put it off to the side, because you're going to have things like, I'm going to have to pay for a loan report or a builder's report. You need that cash there so you can access that instead of going, Mum, Dad, help me out, or how can I get the funds for this? It's all locked up in KiwiSaver. Also, we have advice for clients, and I do this a lot with mine, where they'll have a portion of their deposit saving in KiwiSaver to reap the benefits of the government contribution, the employer benefits, but we'll also do a small portfolio off to the side where they can save up funds, because we can move those funds out pretty quickly and have it available in cash as the client needs it, and we'll be working with them during that process to ensure funds are ready and available. There's another thing the team's asked me to talk of tonight, and that's ID requirements, because unfortunately financial services have had to deal with this the longest out of all the industries in New Zealand. So we are now all required for any large monetary transactions to get proof to say that you are who you say you are. And this is to prevent anti-money laundering, and funding of terrorism. So bear with us, we have to do it. But here's some things that to get yourself sorted. The best forms of ID to bring with you when you meet your mortgage broker, your lawyer, anyone, is have your passport and have it signed. You can travel on an unsigned passport, but you can't borrow money from a bank. So have a signed passport. If you don't have a passport, driver's license and an EFTPOS card. Awesome. Now, we also need proof of your residence. So we need something that says where you live. And this can be a bank statement, but it can't be a bank statement from the KiwiSaver provider that you're wanting to do a withdrawal from, or the bank to which you're wanting to take a mortgage with. It needs to be someone else. So IID is a really good one. If you can only get an electronic statement, we need to see where it's come from. So just showing us in person is awesome when we're certifying that we've actually seen the original. So those are the two things to take with you. Something that says where you live and something that says who you are. So passport and ID statement, perfect two to come in with. And on closing, I could talk for ages on KiwiSaver and all the different benefits and anything else in between. But I thought I'd leave it there, open it up to questions. But I'm happy to chat with anyone about getting yourself positioned to buy a home. We can help you with saving that deposit, making sure your KiwiSaver is fit for you and doing what you want it to do. And I've also been asked that, what about KiwiSaver for my kids? I want to help them out buy a home. There are other options other than KiwiSaver, but you need to know that with KiwiSaver, the kids will not get government contribution or employer's contribution until they are 18. So there may be other better solutions for what your goal is for them. And it's good to come in and chat to an advisor like myself, and we're open to any questions. So if there's no questions coming through, I'm going to pass on to Anna Manning from Ray White Real Estate.
Oh, hello everyone. So I'm Anna Manning from Ray White Real Estate. I help people buy and sell houses. So I guess at my end, a lot of people are asking what's happening with the market. So I'm finding the market's absolutely fantastic. It's really busy. There's quite a few more houses that have come to market since lockdown, and it just feels like, it feels like it's doing really well. So price-wise, I would say that since lockdown finished, I've sold maybe 5 houses in the last 2 weeks. I've been pretty busy, and all of those have sold in my pre-COVID appraisal range, if not slightly higher. So unfortunately for buyers at the moment, yes, you're still going to have to pay the same prices that you were paying, I guess, before lockdown happened. So I'm going to start with methods of sale. So a lot of people say to me, what does tender mean? What does negotiation mean, a BEO or an auction? So those are the 4 standard methods for sale. So what we're seeing a lot of is price by negotiation. From my agency, that means we don't look at offers for the first 7 days. But for a lot of the other real estate companies, it means that within 24 hours, offers can be presented to the seller. So if you see something online that is priced by negotiation, you need to call the agent who's listed it and make sure that you can get through the property really quickly, so not to miss out. Otherwise, for my agency, it's 7 days. So I have the house on the market for 7 days, and once those 7 days are up, we then take all offers to the seller, and the seller gets to then choose if they want to negotiate with one offer. If more than one offer has come in, we do recommend, if it's multi-offer, that you put your best price forward. So the sellers may choose to verbally negotiate with a couple of the offers. It just depends on the situation. So if it's priced by negotiation, definitely have a chat with your agent and make sure that you know clearly what is going on and how the presentation will go. So tenders are a very common form in the market as well. I will, if I'm selling a house by tender, it will be 2 weeks and 2 days. So that gives me 2 weekends of open homes, and it has a finish date. So everyone knows on the same date, that is when all offers are due in, and we hopefully should get an answer the same day as the tender closes. I find tender is quite easy from the point of view that buyers can get everything, like all their ducks in a row. So you might choose to do a building report prior to the tender closing. What I have recently found with buyers is that they have actually started to do walkthrough building reports. So if your bank doesn't specifically need a written building report, you may choose to use the same company that usually does the building reports, but do a walkthrough version. I think it's roughly about $2.99, and you actually get to walk around the property with the builder, and it's a good way to kind of see and discuss anything that may come up. I think, I've got builders who I can recommend. It's just people who are really approachable and ones that you can ask lots of questions with, and no question's a silly question. It's important that you feel comfortable with the house and moving ahead with it. And auction. So in general, I don't auction many properties, and the reason for that is because a lot of buyers find it very difficult to get all their ducks in a row in time for that auction, and I don't want to miss out on bringing in everyone's offer. So for me, it's not a method of sale that I'll do often, just because I've got preferred methods to that. But if you do see something that is for sale by auction, you certainly need to be straight on the phone to your mortgage broker. If you give Karen a call, she'd have everything lined up with before the auction date for you. So kind of is very important. And a BEO. So sometimes we price a property, and it gives a bit of guidance to buyers as to what we think the property may sell for or above. And a BEO is buyer inquiry over. So those are your main methods of sale. So I really need to emphasize, before you even come to open homes, you do need to get pre-approval on a house, or on your lending in general, because otherwise there's no point in coming to the open homes when you cannot even offer. And without pre-approval, it's just not going to happen in the time frame that the houses come to market. So that's definitely your first step, is to get that pre-approval. So the questions to ask when you come to an open home, the main question I'd suggest that buyers ask is, are there any disclosures on the house? So that means when we sign up a listing, we ask the sellers, is everything working? Are there any issues that you're aware of? Is there anything that we need to let buyers know about the property? And so those become our disclosures. So it might be something as simple as there's an alarm in the property but it's not working, so it's an excluded chattel, or it might be that there's an issue with the house in a certain way, and it's very important that we let you know what we know. So those are called disclosures. So yeah, that's a good question to ask. So then I'll talk about making an offer. So the paperwork that we use for making an offer is just standard documents. We don't make any changes to them. They're just your basic standard documents that we use on all houses. So just getting usually into documents we put 5 clauses, and I'll discuss all those 5 clauses with my buyers, and they will choose if they want to keep all the clauses in or if they want to remove some of the clauses. So the common clauses are a title search clause. So that is, you would get your lawyer to search the title. When we give you the offer documents, we give you a title, but it's really up to your lawyer who has more information than we do, and they will give you further information on the title and make sure that the land that you're buying is correct, and especially on a cross-lease property, that the footprint of the house matches the title and everything like that. So that's your title search clause. Your next one is your insurance clause. So since that big 2016 earthquake, we put an insurance clause into all our contracts. So you need to call up an insurance company and make sure that if you were to buy the house, that you would be able to get insurance on it. And once they say yes, and you've got that in writing, then we can remove your insurance clause. Quite a few buyers do that prior to making an offer. So that is, the idea is to clear clauses before your offer is presented, because an offer with no clauses, so an unconditional offer, is always a lot more appealing to a seller. So the next clause is your finance clause. So at the moment, post-lockdown, the banks are taking a little bit longer to process finance on houses. So we cannot remove a finance clause from a contract unless you have got specific approval on that specific home, and then we could look at removing that clause. Otherwise, we would keep a subject to finance clause in the contract. And yeah, so at this stage, I'd recommend 10 working days to do that. Previously, it would have been 5 working days, but right now with the bank, I have had a few contracts that have needed to extend on their finance just because of the bank being so busy. So the next one is a building report clause. So that one is usually within 5 working days. We can easily get a builder through the property and have the report back to you. So a builder comes and has a look at the property. It usually takes an hour or 2, and they do a thorough inspection of the inside and the outside so that you know what you're buying. Sometimes the banks need this and sometimes they don't need it, so you may choose if they don't need it, but it's up to you to get it done. It may be that you prefer to do a walkthrough building report so that you really get to chat with the builder and understand more about the home. And the last one's a LIM report clause. So LIM stands for Land Information Memorandum, and it gives you information about an area, if an area is prone to flooding, or if a new roadway or motorway or something's going to be built, or it might be if there's been slips nearby, or it just gives you more information about an area. So yeah, so we recommend doing that. The Lower Hutt City Council, the standard LIM is 10 working days, but you can actually fast track a LIM. So the fast track LIMs cost maybe $200-ish more, and they can be done within 5 working days. So if all your other clauses, apart from finance, are maybe 5 working days, I'd highly recommend just doing your LIM as 5 working days as well, because it's a lot more attractive to a seller to know that they're pretty much sold within a week as opposed to 2 weeks. And then lastly, I've got tips and tricks. So when you're making an offer, most buyers, they round to a 0 or a 5. So it might be 100, 105, 110, right? So I think a way that you can make your offer stand out a little bit is by, rather than doing 100, just do 102, 800, or 107, 500. We have all sorts of offers come in that are all different numbers. Some people have their lucky numbers down, or it might be $1 at the end. You'd be surprised, but it actually does make a difference. I guess from a seller's point of view, it sounds 107 sounds a little bit more than 105. Yeah, it really does make a difference. So definitely worth doing. Another thing that buyers have recently been doing, and I've seen a lot more of, and it certainly works, is what we call love letters. So that is where you write a letter to the sellers. So probably the reason that you like a property is the same reason that the sellers did when they bought the property. So you might write them a letter saying, you know, dear sellers, we really love your property. We really like how it's private, or it's got native bush around there, or the backyard would be amazing for our kids. And it just makes what is an offer, which is just numbers and words, it makes it personal by putting that letter in there. And I've had sellers open offers, and you know, they might have had an investor that's higher, but then they've said, you know, this one's slightly lower, but I know it's going to go to a family, and you know, they're going to play their drums downstairs in our rumpus room, and you know, we've got drums ourselves, so you know, it'd be really nice to pass it on to a family. So a letter and even a picture at the bottom of all your family looking excited that they could be moving into this house, it does make a difference. I highly recommend doing that. So I'll leave it there. So if you've got any questions, you're always welcome to contact me. Cool. So questions come through. Can you tell me how long a buyer should wait until the vendor has decided whether to negotiate or set their offer? If there is more than one offer on a B&O, what's a reasonable negotiation period from offer to conclusion, and can the real estate agent drag it on in order to get the best offer? Myself, when I'm presenting offers, I usually let all buyers know what time I'm seeing the sellers. I feel that if it was me buying, that's what I'd want to know. And in general, if it's a tender or we have a deadline, everyone knows that the offers are due in on that date. So we'd pretty much be trying to get an offer accepted, or if we are negotiating with a couple of offers, I do specifically ask for permission to release the offers that are not in the running, and I think that is personally the fairest way to do it. So if a property was, I don't know, 500,000 and I've got an offer at 450 that's just not going to buy it, I will specifically say to the sellers, can I please have an email from you saying that I can go back to the offer at 450 and say, look, thank you for your offer, but it's just not going to win it at this stage. To me, if an offer or if an agent's not getting back to you and dragging it on, they're negotiating with someone else, not you. So unfortunately, not all agents will come back to you and tell you that, but I think that's pretty much what I'd assume is going on. Otherwise, sometimes we do deal with divorces or estate sales and siblings not talking to each other and things like that. But when I have those type of situations, I actually let buyers know that I'm finding it a little bit difficult to communicate with the seller, or these two are discussing this and things, because I think if you communicate really well with buyers, everyone stays happy, and same with sellers. I'm really good at communicating with sellers. Sellers always know exactly what's going on with me, and that's how you get, happy buyers, happy sellers. So yeah, so hope that answers your question on that. Always I love first-time buyers. They're probably my favourite people to deal with in the market. It's really exciting. We can help people buy their first home. So I do feel welcome to contact me. One thing I can offer buyers is sales stats. So that is, I can easily go into the Real Estate Institute system and download what has sold in the past 12 months in your budget. And to me, that gives you the RV, the sale price, bedrooms, floor area and land area, and it's a summary of what is actually happening, and it's in one spreadsheet, and that's what I use to appraise houses. So I'm more than happy for you to email me. So it's anna.manning@raywhite.com, and I can provide sales stats for you very easily. And I wish that when I was buying, before I went into real estate, that I had the option to get hold of those stats myself. So cool. Right, well, I'll hand it over to Jordan and Chris from Whitmarsh Law, and thank you.
Hello, hey, yes. Thanks, Anna. Yeah, look, we're Jordan and Chris from Whitmarsh Law. We're a local law firm here in Lower Hutt. The majority of our work is conveyancing, which is buying and selling houses. So we deal with heaps and heaps of first-home buyers, and property is our specialty. So what we've done tonight is we thought we'd just come up with a few questions, probably the most common questions that we get asked about what our whole role in this is, what happens when you've got an offer accepted, all of that. So I'll turn this over to Chris, and I'll ask our first question. Chris, what does a lawyer do?
That's a great question, Jordan. Something we get asked a lot. Basically, our role as lawyers is to look after the transfer of legal ownership from the seller to the buyer. So basically anything to do with the contract, right from when you first start looking for a home through to settlement day when you start moving in. So here at Whitmarsh Law, a service that we offer for free is actually checking contracts before you even make an offer. So a lot of contracts are pretty standard form. So anytime you're interested in a property, you can send us an email with a copy of the contract. We can give it a quick once over, let you know if there's anything out of the ordinary, any of the usual terms are deleted, or if there's any extra terms in there that you should know about. We can also check the title as well. So that's one condition you don't have to worry about, because we can look at that for you before you even make your offer. Like I said, we do that for free, just a bit of help to get you going. Yeah, so I guess the next logical question after that, Jordan, is what happens if my offer is accepted?
All right, so an agreement has turned up in our emails from the real estate agent, and it's got your name on it. So what we do is we open a file for you. We just review the agreement, go over it again, make sure that everything's all in order, make sure that everything's signed and initialed where appropriate and dated. And we open up this file, we go through the conditions, we check the dates that they're due. You've got to factor in things like public holidays when you're sort of going through these conditions. We go by working days, not regular days. So yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll prepare a report on your agreement, just letting you know all the major information, including our fees. Actually, we have fixed fees, so we'll tell you what it's going to cost from the start. And yeah, once we get that out to you, the next step is we can help you out with your conditions as they come along. But yeah, Chris, let's say all of these conditions, like what Anna was talking about, you know, my finance, my insurance, my builder's report came back good. What happens if I want to go unconditional?
Right. So the next step after that would just to give us a simple instruction, an email, ideally just telling us that, you know, finance is satisfied, builder's report satisfied, LIM report, whatever's in there. Just say, Jordan, Chris, we're happy with all this. Please let the vendor's lawyer know. So then what we do, we contact them, we tell them exactly that. And then from that moment on, it's a binding agreement. So legally binding contract, no grounds for cancellation. Makes the agent very happy. They can stick that sold sticker on the sign outside. And yeah, you've bought a house. You're locked in after that. Next immediate steps would be to pay the deposit. So the deposit in this case would be there on the front page. It's usually a bit of a down payment. It's the first part of the purchase price you pay, usually between 5 to 10%. The agent will get in contact with you with some particular payment instructions, how to do that. And yeah, you just pay that. The next thing would be to tell your lender, just let them know that the agreement is unconditional now, as well as your insurer as well, because from settlement day, you become responsible for the insurance over the property, not the vendor. So yeah, those are the immediate steps after that. Give us an instruction, pay your deposit, and let your lender and your insurer know that the agreement's unconditional. So after that, Jordan, what happens?
All right, well, we've gone unconditional. We're locked in. So next thing's going to happen is we're going to receive your loan documents. I think the expectation is that if you're a first home buyer, you're probably going to be getting a loan. And a person like Karen would be sorting that out for you and going through the specifics. We see the sort of the finished product, the thing that you're actually going to sign. So when that comes through, we prepare all the documents. There's also some other documents you need to sign for land transfer. We go through those with you as well, and we discuss what your obligations are going to be. And we generally just check over everything and make sure that there's nothing in there that is anything out of the ordinary, really. Now, when we meet, normally we meet around sort of a week before your settlement day, which is normally the day you'd move in. We will talk about an inspection. So you can organise with the real estate agent a pre-inspection of the property in which you can go over the place and make sure that it's in basically the same condition as when you entered the agreement. There's some things like fair wear and tear and that kind of thing that needs to be taken into account. But really, you should do this a few days before your settlement day, just so that if any issues pop up, well, you can come to us and say, hey, look, I've got this problem. Can we get this sorted before settlement, please? And then it just gives us enough of a buffer time to get that sorted before the settlement day. Now, look, you're probably thinking, well, I know that I've got so much coming in for my KiwiSaver. I know I've got my first home grant. If you're eligible for those things, if you're doing those things, I know how much my loan is going to be, but there's still a balance there, the funds that I'm putting towards the purchase. So that comes to us as well. And we'll advise you of that amount once we've got all the figures together. And then we make basically the one payment on settlement day that covers our fee and covers the purchase of the house as well. So that all happens on settlement. But this also goes into my next question for Chris. Chris, what happens on settlement?
Okay, well, we'd be happy to know that on settlement day, you're not actually required in our office. You would have signed everything you needed to back in that meeting that Jordan was talking about. So broadly, what happens on settlement day is your lender will deposit your loan amount into our trust account. By that point, your KiwiSaver should already be in there. Your first home grant, if you have applied for that, should already be in there, and any balance funds as well. So when that loan comes in, we should have exactly what we need in order to complete the purchase. So on the day, we just check those figures once again. We complete settlement. That means that we transfer the balance of that purchase price into the vendor's lawyer's trust account. That completes the contract. The purchase price has been paid in full. We send the vendor's lawyer notification of that as well. And then we give you a call and tell you the good news. Soon after receiving that payment confirmation, the vendor's lawyer will authorize the release of keys. Usually the real estate agent looks after that. And you can start moving in. Yeah. Anything else in there you think on settlement?
No,
day?
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's the payment for the title, and that happens on the day.
Yeah. A lot of people ask what time can we expect settlement to be completed? And it's a pretty tricky question to answer, actually, because there are a lot of things outside of our hands. There's obviously another party. We need to make sure they're ready to go, as well as your lender as well. It's hard to know exactly what time they will deposit the funds into our trust account. Usually sometime between maybe 8 to 10:30, but it's hard to say exactly. But we can be sure of is that we will be working our hardest to make sure it gets done as soon as we can for you, because we know you're excited to move in.
And often, now we did just say, okay, well, the funds pass on settlement, and that's usually the day that you move in. What we're seeing nowadays is, if there's any issues, there's really no time to sort it out. And quite commonly we have settlements on Fridays. So can you picture a nightmare scenario where nothing's gone right and your money's not there and we're running out of time, we're hitting that deadline. And basically we're running into like a myriad of problems. What we recommend is that you always set that settlement day maybe a day before you actually plan on moving in. And we just recommend get that settlement for Thursday and then give yourself a long weekend or take a day off on the Friday to actually move. You don't have to move on the day that you actually buy the place. It's just kind of wiser.
Yeah. It's a stressful time, right? And try and make it easy on yourself. Don't want to be worrying about a moving truck waiting and that sort of thing. Okay, Jordan, well, that's broadly the process start to finish, but there's also KiwiSaver. Where does that fit into the process?
Right, so you can use your KiwiSaver at 2 points throughout this whole process. So the first is to pay that deposit, and that's the deposit we're talking about is not your contribution. It's what's on the front page of the agreement. Chris was saying usually it's 5-10% of the purchase price, and that secures the purchase. So that's when your conditions have been satisfied. So when you go unconditional, as Chris said, you can pay the deposit and you can actually withdraw your KiwiSaver funds for that point in time. It does mean that you do need to be pretty onto it as soon as you've entered your agreement, and make sure that you come and see us to get that KiwiSaver sorted, so that we know by the time your conditions are up, we're going to have that money waiting in our account ready to make that deposit. The second time, or the second place in this process that you can use it, is on the settlement day for the settlement. Now, if you are going to just use it at the end there, say you've got a bit of cash saved, you can make that deposit on the front page of the agreement yourself, while the KiwiSaver would be, well, we advise at least that you use it on that settlement day. And in that case as well, we would get the withdrawal process organized once you've become unconditional. And there's usually plenty of time there to get it sorted. We're sort of looking at maybe 10 working days. you know, if it's really urgent, we can get it done, but really don't advise that. There's no promises. Yeah, I think just, you know, regarding your conditions, 10 working days is quite standard for a condition. We're seeing really short conditions coming through, just with sort of quite a highly competitive market, especially in the Hutt. So it's really just being prepared. And if you are going to use it for that initial deposit on the front page of the agreement, that you're ready to go to get that KiwiSaver out. And look, we see you, we witness your signature, we prepare everything else that you need to get that KiwiSaver in. We do all of that for you. We just need to come and we need to see you to actually get your signature witness.
Yeah.
Major thing, Chris, is just to have current photo ID, and you should have that if you're going to buy a house. You should have a current photo ID and a proof of address, and that can really trip people up. But a proof of address is it's quite broad. You know, it could be your power bill. I guess you wouldn't have a rates bill. You wouldn't be a homeowner yet.
Yeah. Bank statements or
something from the government.
Yeah, letter from IRD is always a good one. Yeah. But yeah, every provider will have a standard form. You can just download that form, fill in your personal information, and let us know. We can arrange an appointment and get it done right away. Easy as that.
All right, Chris. Let's say I'm eligible for the Home Start grant. Okay. Well, what about that?
All right. So the Home Start grant, as it's now called, it's a government grant issued by Kāinga Order, used to be known as Housing New Zealand. Basically, if you're buying an existing property and you meet the criteria, you can withdraw between $3,000 to $5,000 for an existing home, or between $5,000 to $10,000 for a new build. So you can apply for pre-approval at any time, even before you've even started looking for a property. It's a good thing to know right off the bat whether you're eligible or not, and perhaps what you can use. That can be done at any time. Once you've got that pre-approval and you enter into an agreement, so your offer's been accepted, then that's the next step, full approval. So that's basically just providing Kāinga Order with a bit more information, a signed copy of the agreement, and just a bit of other information. But once again, we can help you with that. We deal with it all the time. Once you've made that, kind of second application to be fully approved, Kāinga Order will send us your grant agreement. So a bit like your loan agreement with the bank, Kāinga Order sends us a grant agreement, which we then sit down with you and we witness your signature and return it.
And what's like the major stipulation for a first home buyer and all of these first home grant agreements?
Yeah, I mean, the criteria broadly is, you've been a member for at least 3 years, you haven't owned any land before, and you're going to live in the property. That's broadly, there's a bit more to it than that, but those are the main things you're looking for. You haven't owned land, been a member for at least 3 years.
And yeah, for everyone who's a first home buyer, I mean, it's expected that you're going to be living there, that this isn't going to be a rental or anything like that. But yeah, it's just making sure that you know that you are going to be living at the property straight after settlement. Usually it's about 6 months, is that right?
6 months is the minimum time you have to live there.
And again, look, once you sign that loan agreement, that comes straight into our trust account. So that's another thing that we take into account for, your deposit when we talk about your contribution versus the bank's contribution.
Great. Well, that's broadly what we do. Just to recap, I guess we take you through right from beginning to end, from when you start making your offers right through to when you kind of move in. We help you every step along the way, keeping you informed and helping you along. So I guess we can open up to questions now. We've got one here. Hi guys, if I go unconditional and I don't wind up getting finance approval, what happens then? Am I liable? Do you want to answer that one, Jordan?
Raywin, you should not be going unconditional without finance approval. Anna was talking about how with Ray White they have like a compulsory finance condition. Not all real estate agents do that, and they do accept, say, buyers who put in agreements without them. look, our advice would be, even if you have full approval for a loan before you've entered into agreement, get that finance condition on the agreement. Unconditional offers, they happen all the time, but anything can happen. And like Chris was saying, once you're unconditional, you're locked in. And we don't see it very often, but if you back out of an agreement once all the conditions are satisfied, or if you put through an unconditional agreement, I mean, you could get sued here. And basically the vendor saying, well, look, you promised to pay me this amount for this property, and now you're saying that you can't afford it anymore. This is exactly why we have conditions. But look, just to answer your question, if you go unconditional and don't wind up getting finance approval, that's sort of what you're opening yourself up to. I guess we just don't recommend going unconditional unless you've got that finance approval first.
It's important to know too that if you do need a bit more time, we can vary the contract at any time in writing with the agreement of both parties. So say you've got a 10 working day finance clause, and you email one of us and say, Chris, Jordan, I need a few more days, the bank's real busy. We can make a request for an extension. And if they agree to it, then you've got a bit more time. So you can, there's less risk that no reason to feel that you have to confirm when you're not quite ready. We can always ask for that extension.
And it's, most people want to complete an agreement, right? Most people want to make sure that this thing goes through to the end, that there aren't going to be any problems. Most of the time when we ask for an extension, we do get them. But yeah, it has to be by mutual agreement. So it is just making sure that if you do need extra time, that we've got a good reason. We are seeing it a bit now. It's quite busy at the moment, just in the housing market. We are having to ask for more extensions from our clients, particularly with finance. And yeah, we are getting them most of the time, but I guess it's just being prepared and and yeah, let your real estate agent know. Your real estate agent has probably a better line of communication than us. We'd have to ask the other lawyer. Obviously, we'd need to get the formal extension done through an email. But if you say, hey, you talk to your real estate agent, then we're almost there. We need 1 or 2 more days. They've got a bit more of a personal touch with the vendor that we can't get because, the rules say that we can't talk to the other side except through the lawyers.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that about wraps up what we were going to say. So yeah, I guess that's us.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone. That was really full of lots of very practical tips and ideas and information. So I'm sure that, especially if you're a first home buyer watching this live stream, that there was plenty of information for you to learn from. Can I just ask a couple of questions? So Karen, back at the beginning, you talked about the 4 C's if someone's preparing to look at a mortgage and that sort of thing. And you mentioned that it can take 6 months. And I just want to talk about that 6 months because that seems like quite a long time. But I assume then that you mean that, you need to allow yourself some time to prepare. Do you help people prepare?
Yes, I do. So occasionally I see clients that are credit impaired. So what I mean by that is they have a number of credit cards up to the limit. They might have a car loan. They might have dishonours on their account only because they get paid on a Tuesday. But all their APs go out on a Monday the night before. So it's a matter of just organising their accounts over 3 to 6 months. We're going to have 3 months of clear account conduct to be approved by the bank. So I help people to get ready to buy a house. So I quite often work with someone for 3 to 6 months to make sure that they look like a good risk. So the application will be approved before we apply. Right. Okay. And is that with first home buyers as well as investors? It's mainly first-time buyers that don't understand the importance of having nice, tidy bank accounts, but also investors. And the other thing I would note is there's no charge for my time. So if I spend 6 months with you or 3 weeks with you, there is no charge for my time. I'm paid by the bank where I place your loan.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Karen. I just thought, when you said 6 months, some people might want some explanation on that. So that's really good to know that you can help them navigate through that 6 months. And Hayley, you mentioned about the KiwiSaver. You obviously know a lot about KiwiSaver. It sounds like you live inside KiwiSaver and provide advice every day. Certainly way back in the level 4 lockdown for COVID, there was a lot of volatility in KiwiSaver. Where's it sitting about now? What's happened?
Well, what we're seeing is governments technically print money. So they've gone and borrowed loads of money and pumped it into their economies to try and alleviate the effects. And some of it's found its way into the markets. So the markets have actually recovered quite significantly. And a lot of providers and fund managers are now running scared. They're worried what's going to be next. We've just seen the largest drop in history in the shortest period of time. What's going to come next? So we're all walking a bit cautiously. We're expecting it to still be very volatile. There's a lot happening out there. So if you're in KiwiSaver for the long term, stick to the plan. Don't go switching your KiwiSaver around because you'll end up losing out. You'll make money when it's low and it comes back up. So if you're buying cheap, cool. But you're never going to be able to time it. Just keep putting those regular deposits in and make the most of it while you can. If you are going to be buying in the next, 3 to 6 months, get that more conservative mix, talk to your advisor and get some advice and make sure it's set up perfectly for you because you want that confirmed capital amount sitting there. You don't want to worry about it moving about.
Great, thanks. And Anna, you said that the industry was really quite buoyant at the moment. There was a lot of people who were interested in property, and you'd obviously sold, I can't remember how many you said you'd sold, but it was an impressive number that you've sold just in the last couple of weeks. Are you seeing all sorts of different buyers, or are there particular trends coming through?
In general, it's people who are looking at buying for themselves, but I've just had one house that was on the market for a week. I had over 50 groups through, so that's probably about 100 to 150 people that would have been through in that week. 7 offers. All of the offers were actually people looking at buying it for themselves, but I did notice that there were a few more investors that had come through that particular property, and it's just a standard 3-bedroom 2-bathroom home in a good central location. So it does feel maybe investors are coming back as well. So
yeah. Oh, that's really interesting as well. Yeah, because there's been a lot of discussion about where property goes post-COVID, commercial property as well as residential, and maybe people were expecting large decreases in price due to uncertainty, or maybe people didn't want to move, but it doesn't sound like that's happening.
No, we expected things to change a bit, but if anything, I've seen better prices post-lockdown than before lockdown. So, it's hopefully it continues for everyone's sake.
Yeah, it's a really positive thing, really, isn't it? It's very, very good as well. Okay. Okay, so I don't think I have any other questions. Can I just firstly thank you all for your time. Thank you for sharing your expertise so freely and sharing that with the whole community. So, really appreciate that. The live stream is always, although we did this through lockdown periods, it's an easy way to get out to a much wider audience. I know we had a lot of people who are very interested in viewing this tonight. So thank you so much for sharing all your expertise. Karen, can I thank you specifically for being a silver partner with the Hutt Valley Chamber of Commerce? It's because of our members and our partners that we're able to provide a wide range of free services to the whole business community, not just chamber members, through COVID-19 and all that we are facing going forward. And of course, this whole situation, is a challenge for us for at least the next 12, 24 months. So it's people like you guys who are local experts who just bring your expertise and knowledge and experience and freely share them with the community that makes a real difference. So can I thank you all? Thank you very much, Karen, for bringing everyone together, and thank you for those of you who have joined us this evening. If you have any questions for the panel, even after we've finished this evening, or if you watch a video of this or a filming of this, then please pop them in the comments and we'll make sure the right person answers those for you. So thanks very much again for all your time, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.